Peace Reflections, peace. Back again. Here to make another divine video. A video for my reflections. Divine information. I'm gonna sit down, connect to Mama, be one on the ground. Okay, we'll get this chair out of the way. Move myself out of the way. Okay, here we go. Urko Kruta. I hope I said Reflections' name right. Peace, family, peace. Hope I said one's name right. Yeah. So, today's video is going to be on communication. And the various forms of communication. Everything is communication. Everything is communication. Me verbally speaking is a form of communication. Me touching my feet to the ground or skin to earth is a form of communication. Me eating this banana is a form, which is a form of light that has been alchemized from the sun through photosynthesis, and then has created itself into this this life force. This fruit is a form of communication within my body. One takes a bite, then the microRNAs in this banana get sent to the body and connect with the RNA within one's being, and then constructs and creates a form of, it constructs and creates and uses that information that was sent from this banana, and then rebuilds one's body, rebuilds and reconstructs one's organisms and cells, and constructs itself based off that. So that's why it is so important, Reflections, to pay attention to what one eats and what one puts in their body, because everything is a form of intercourse, everything is a form of communication, and one's body will have a reaction to the response signal that it gets from the conformative communication that it receives. So if one puts in pollution and toxins in the body, there will be a response signal sent, and then the body will reflect exactly what it received. So if a reflection puts negative, low vibrational toxins in the body, one will reflect that based off the skin will start bumping up, and it will start smelling, and it will get gross, and it will create a horrible environment that will show on one's skin. And this is not love. Love is understanding. So to love oneself is to understand one's being, one's body, and be able to treat one's being and one's body as a God should, as an immortal being should. But my reflections, beings in Babylon, are unconscious that they are everything and everything is them, that they are God, that they are the masters of their own reality, that one is the master of their own, of one's own reality, that one has a choice of what one puts in one's being and what comes in and out, what one subjects himself to. One needs to understand the forms of communication and intercourse, and understand that everything one subjects himself to is affecting one's being, and is being responded to, and being communicating through the five senses, and other forms of communication that one's being will interpret and pick up. So if one has is unconscious of one's technology, one's device, and how it works, one will discover pain. One will have a teacher of pain. Pain will be one's teacher because one is unconscious. And my job is to reflect the light and give the wisdom so one does not have to go through pain, so one can ascend, come into the higher consciousness, and be able to protect oneself, protect one's being. If one was to pour bleach or some chemical alchemized form of liquid on Mama, on this tree here, there would be a communicative response. Likely this tree here, Mama, would die because of the chemical, because of the communicative response that was received from what it was subjected to. The same thing is said for oneself, one being. One is in a simulated environment. One is responding through epigenetics in this simulated environment. And as one is perishing, one's body is at wit's end. One's body is fighting to survive, fighting to strive. And this is not in harmony. This is not being in harmony with one's body. This is not understanding communication. This is unconscious. This is unconscious thinking. This is low vibrational thinking. This is negative. One needs to become conscious of what one is communicating in with, what one is sending in signals and receiving for signals. In nature, when we look in nature and we think of the communication that everything receives in nature, water, air, some form of plant-based food, all derived from the sun, all derived from dark matter, because dark matter is sucked in through the sun, and the sun is a converter of dark matter, and then the electromagnetic spectrum is played out in different frequencies, different colors. So the sun is the source, the sun is the antenna. The sun is sending signals and creating this realm and communicating this realm. You are the sun. You are a piece of that sun. You're a piece of dark matter. You're a piece of the collective consciousness. You're a piece of the Christ consciousness. Everything is oneself. One is the only one in existence. And one is surrounded by frequencies and beings, energies that are responding and communicating with one's being. Now, based off one's consciousness, one will either be in the lower self or the higher self of communication, of subjecting what one is subjecting themselves to. When one is in their natural environment, when one is surrounded by green, when one is surrounded by nature, when one is surrounded by alkaline water, natural alkaline water, when one is surrounded by quality air and UVB sunlight, one is in their natural environment. One needs to realize that one's being is an antenna, a transmitter of communicating signals, and everything affects one's being. The humanity and the light beings all belong between the tropics of Cancer and Capricorn, in a environment where one does not have to wear cotton, where one does not have to put on skin over one's own skin. One is supposed to be natural. One is supposed to be like the animal. One is supposed to be like the child. One is supposed to be free, authentic. One is supposed to be one in harmony with nature. One's being even communicates with nature through many different forms. We produce soil from the food that we put inside one's being, through the light energy that one puts inside their being. If it is good light energy, it will produce good soil, good fertilizer for Mama to give back in the same way that Mama gives to us in abundance. and then this will create life. If one puts toxins in the body and then produces soil and produces dirt and gives it back, no life will grow from that soil. No life will grow from that dirt because it is toxic. And this lets one know that one is not doing the right thing. One is not in harmony with Mama. One cannot be in harmony with Mama if one is not in harmony with one's own being. It all works in synchronicity. So one must come to the consciousness that one has to provide the right and subject themselves and communicate with one's being in a positive light and give a good communicative response and send a good signal out. And then one will receive a good signal. But one cannot do this in an unnatural environment. One cannot do this when one's body is an antenna. One's body is a cell phone that needs to connect to its tower, from where all signals derive from. The converter, the tower, the transmitter, which picks up signals and then transmits them down upon this earth realm. One needs to connect to that. One needs to be closest to that. One needs to be closest to the oxygen. Oxygen is where one gets their thoughts. When one breathes in oxygen, one gives out carbon. The trees, the plants, have a direct connection with one's being through the chlorophyll and the red blood cell. Red blood cell has iron in it, which takes in oxygen and releases carbon. Transmits that through a process and then releases carbon for the trees to breathe, and then the trees take that in through a chlorophyll cell, and in the chlorophyll cell there's magnesium, which takes that carbon and then converts it back into oxygen. We have a direct connection, a direct exchange with Mama. Without oxygen, one will go unconscious. When one goes unconscious, one can't think. If one does not get enough oxygen to the brain in a heated climate or in a hot climate, one will go crazy. We know this. Just look in cities. Just look in hot areas where there is no trees, in cities and in places that do not have trees, and then focus on and analyze the way that beings act and how crazy and how unconscious beings are for the lack of oxygen and the pollution of the environment that one is subjecting themselves to. Everything that one experiences, everything that one subjects himself to, a reflection of oneself, is just a reflection of oneself, there to show and wake one being up to get out of the environment. When one eats toxic food, one experiences bumps, one experiences smell, one experiences pain. This is to let one know that this is not in harmony, this is not in tune. One must get in tune. One must come back to the source which everything derives from. One must become one with nature. Before there was any books, before there was any archives that beings have alchemized using Mama, using the source, it was the source, it came from the source. All information, all divine wisdom, all pure knowledge has come from the source. The source is everything. One is everything. I am everything and everything is me. One needs to come to this consciousness and tap into what is most authentic. These environments that one is placed in, these prisons, these zoos, are not where one needs to be. This one will perish, one will experience pain, and one will perish. One needs to come to the consciousness and rise. This is the time in the cycle to rise and go back to the source, go back to nature, and be one with that. Communication is also body language. Communication is also body language. We need to break these spells. Just as one has broken the spells of using words of separation, one needs to break the spells of body language and how one is positioning themselves and how one is manipulating and maneuvering their being. Becoming a child again, shapeless, formless. When a child plays, when a child moves their being, they're loose and limber. They're not stressed, they're not tense, they're loose. They squat, children squat, just like this. One needs to get into the habit of changing one's body language and the way that one positions self. When the spine is not in the right position, signals and the transmitter from the energy that it transfers up the spine to the brain, to the visual cortex, to the back of the brain, to where the signals get sent, can get misread, and communication can be non-responsive. Communication can be disrupted because one is not having their antenna, one is not having their being, their transmitter right. Just as if one has a satellite, one has a dish trying to receive signals in order to watch that TV or idiot box that being's watching Babylon. If it isn't positioned right, if it isn't in the right position, it will not receive good signal, and then it will get distorted, and there will be no transmission, there will be no signal, there will be no download. This is the same thing that is with one's being. When one does not position the spine right, when one does not breathe right. The breath of oxygen is a form of light. When one breathes, one should breathe deep from the stomach. When one breathes in, the stomach should go out. This is the proper way for one to breathe because it brings light into one's whole being. In Babylon, beings breathe with their chest, so their stomach, one's stomach goes in, and then the chest comes out. This is improper. This is not the proper way to breathe. This is not a good way of communication. This is not a good form of communication. One must breathe, and the stomach must come out, expanding and contracting from maximum capacity of light energy, of oxygen, into one's being, oxygenating the whole blood and everything in one's being. Communication is breath, communication is body language, communication is what one puts in the mouth. Communication is what one subjects himself to, from skin to whatever one touches. Communication is what one is surrounded by, energy. If one is around negative, low vibrational beings, that's a form of communication, of intercourse that is affecting one's being, negatively or positively, depending on the frequency and the consciousness of that being. Communication is everything. One is everything, and everything is oneself. There is no separation from self. There's absolutely no separation. One must articulate and be able to communicate with everything optimally, fluently, positively. One must love thyself. Love is understanding. One must study one's being astrologically. One must study one's being and know thyself, know what is good for one's being and what isn't good for one's being. We are all astrological expressions of the Christ consciousness, of the higher self, manifesting in different expressions astrologically. So one must know their astrological expression and know what one's weaknesses are and what one's strengths are, and maneuver energy as well as understanding all forms of communication and knowing that everything is a form of communication, and then knowing how to alchemize and maneuver the communication in a positive light, or one will unconsciously maneuver it in a negative light and experience pain and suffering until one gets to the consciousness of what reality is, and what this realm is, and what communication is, what love is, what one is. This is how one comes into the higher self. This is how one comes into consciousness. The time is now to connect back to the source from which everything derives. The time is to become the higher self. The time is now. And we'll give some shout outs to beings, because I love myself. Michaela Wigham, Peace Reflections, peace. Nature Kid James, Peace Reflection, peace. Deja Osun, great rising. Peace Reflection, peace. Universal Man Morenza, I hope I'm saying all these names right. Peace Reflections, peace. Dante Rucker, Peace Reflection. Donna, Peace Reflection, peace. Shannon Marie, Peace Reflection, peace. Bishmiel Luis, Peace Reflection, peace and love. Numb Man, Peace Reflection, peace and love. Y'all got some names. My reflections got names. Vincent, Peace Reflection. Zabira, Peace Zabira. And Andrigas Belton, Peace Reflection. William, peace. I want to give my reflections another view. Another view of the beautiful area. This is where my reflections belong, between the tropics of Cancer and Capricorn. Tuning into Mama's frequency. Coming into the nothingness, age of nonverbal communication, where actions speak louder than words. these reflections. In the heart chakra. I love myself. Peace, love, and light.